It's time for a little bit of a Magic the Gathering news recap. Today, on the streams that they do for Magic the Gathering, they had a little discussion about the epilogue boosters from March of the Machine, the aftermath, and how they are affecting kind of future set designs. But rather than have you guys sit through an hour of that boring ass stuff, I went through it, sat through it, almost fell asleep listening to some of it, and went ahead and kind of broke it down along with some of the questions that were asked. Some of them were just very softball stuff. And I'm not going to sit here and bog it down with their trying to pick and choose what they want to answer kind of things, and kind of break it down and give my thoughts on some of it as well. So here we go. Starting off with the beginning of this, we're going to start with what they talked about with the epilogue boosters from the aftermath set and how they were created because they wanted to quote unquote get more story into our lives basically, and wanted to have a set that was going to trail after that story. However, I call BS because it didn't feel like they cared about the story, but this is the story that was tied to the March of the Machine, the aftermath stories. There was two of them, and they didn't really cover anything but four characters out of all the characters that showed up in the aftermath boosters. It only had basically four characters: Nissa and Chandra in one story, and Ajani and Nahiri in the other story. Didn't seem like they really cared beyond that. And then on top of that, the story for March of the Machine was so convoluted and so messy that I think players just really didn't care. And they felt that it was more of a money grab, breaking off a chunk of the cards to stick them in their own ancillary set. So, why are they talking about this now? Well, of course, the big problem here is they were going to have these in the new set that's coming in the spring, the Outlaws of Thunder Junction. So what were they planning to do? They were doing to do basically the exact same thing. They were so, I don't know what the word is, bullish on these epilogue boosters being something that they went ahead full steam ahead for almost 2 years ahead of time in terms of the planning. Because I don't know if you guys understand how long it takes to develop a Magic the Gathering set, but it is not something they can just throw together in 6 months to a year. Outlaws of Thunder Junction was planned out probably 2 to 3 years ago, and March of the Machine Aftermath was probably planned out 3 or 4 years ago. So it's just like they've been planning on this for so long, and they're like now they're scrambling because of how bad March of the Machine went. Just to kind of illustrate how bad things went for that set, if you don't know about this, when it first launched last spring, it was about $129 a box. There's 24 packs in a box. The only problem is there's only 5 cards in each booster pack, which makes them far more expensive than any kind of regular booster pack you get. So at that 24 pack price, you were paying like $5 and something a pack, which is more than the brand new play boosters go for if you're buying them loose. Usually you get a discount for buying them in the booster boxes because you're buying in bulk. Now, fast forward to now, the March of the Machine Aftermath boxes are going for about $45. So it's a little less than $2 a pack buying a full box at this time. And that's a little more reasonable since you're getting less than half of what the other boosters are even providing to you in them as you open them. So, with that said, now let's take a look at what they were planning on doing with the Outlaws of Thunder Junction. The big thing there is they were going to do another epilogue story. So, they were going to kind of break it off and have this little extra bit, like showing what happened after the fact. But with the collapse of the Aftermath set and how badly it was received, they actually went ahead and took all those cards, which were already templated, already had their own separate logo, all this stuff, and they're now going to put them into the main set packs, but they are still going to have that extra logo. Now, how those are going to get into those packs, I'm not 100% certain. They did not explain how. But one theory that I have, because they had kind of mentioned it, is that the list slot is going to become quote unquote more story centric in the Outlaws of Thunder Junction, and it's going to have a smaller set list than a lot of previous sets. Like a lot of the lists that were in the previous sets were 300, 200, 100 cards. This is going to saying it's going to have a much smaller list this time. So I'm going to guess some of those cards are probably going to be in the list slot, or they're going to dedicate some other slot in the play boosters to incorporate these cards to get them out into the player's hands. On the flip side of that, they are going to be getting rid of some of the cards that were going to be in those epilogue things. They just got cut as part of the numbers game. The other half of this, and the reason why they're talking about epilogue boosters, is they are going to affect the design of a brand new booster that's coming for Universes Beyond, the Beyond Booster. Now, this booster is going to be introduced with the Assassin's Creed set that's coming in July, and there's a breakdown of how the packs go out. So let's take a quick look here and see how this breakdown goes. So one important thing to note here is the cards from this set that and any future Universes Beyond set that include these Beyond boosters will be modern legal, unlike a lot of the past Universes Beyond cards, which were mostly part of the Commander precons or legacy staples and things like that that were used, except for like the Lord of the Rings set, which was printed directly into modern. Now, that's not to say that all the future Universes Beyond sets will have these boosters, and nor will they all be modern legal. They wanted to make sure that was abundantly clear. It says these sets, like this one for Assassin's Creed, is going to be around 100 cards tied to whatever IP they're for, and around, so it's around double the size of the Aftermath set. It's going to be 24 booster packs per box. The packs are going to be 7 playable cards plus a token or ad card, so about half of what you get from a regular play booster. And on the chart on the screen here, you're going to see that there is no commons in the set. They're all uncommons, rares, or mythics. And the pack breakdown is like this. In the first slot, guaranteed 3 uncommons, non-foil. A slot with a guaranteed non-foil land that can also have what's being called a scene card. Now, this was being alluded to in part of this stream as something new that's coming. At a guess, I would guess it's kind of like the art cards, but it might be something completely different. It's also got a guaranteed non-foil rare or mythic slot in the pack, a foil slot that can contain any of the rarities, including the rares and mythics, and a slot for the booster fun cards that have like special borders, full arts, borderless types, all that different stuff that they've been introducing now for the last few years. This slot can have it, and it can also have any rarity. The breakdown of this allows for up to 4 rares or mythics in the packs, which is actually one higher than the prevalence of the Aftermath boosters. So you're probably wondering why they would use these epilogue boosters if they were such an abysmal failure to model these brand new packs off of. Well, they said that they had scoured social media, watched YouTube creators like myself and others to kind of figure out what the general feeling of the Aftermath and how it was received and where they could make changes and all this other blah, blah, blah. However, I don't really pay much heed to what they're saying here. One thing they said that was kind of a problem, and I do agree with, is that the packs were too repetitive. The set just wasn't big enough for what they were trying to put out there, and you were opening a lot of the same stuff. And then on top of that, you also had a bunch of junk cards in those packs. It's great that there's no commons, but a lot of uncommons and rares are just junk as well. So it's like if you're going to premium price something with less cards, you need to guarantee that everything in those packs are going to be a hit or a damn near hit. And that was not the case with the Aftermath set. So that was a big miss on their part. On top of it, they were saying nothing about the MSRP of the packs and stuff other than that they could not control that because they don't set their own MSRP, which I call bull on. You have the ability to do that because you charge your distributors a certain amount of money when you sell them the packs. Then they turn around and try to sell that to the stores, and there's a markup along the way every step of the way. But you start that chain of events, WotC. You have that control. You just don't choose to assert it, so you can't get blamed when stuff like this is just rejected en masse by the player base. We know when we're getting screwed, and we don't like getting screwed. At least I don't. And I don't understand why they can't just admit, yes, we overcharged for the initial run of this set. We should have set the pricing lower. We should have charged our distributors less and fixed the problem. Now they're saying, well, we're looking at that, but they are not really saying anything about it. So I get the feeling that these cards are going to come out cheaper at the beginning of the release, unlike the Aftermath, in order to entice players to get into it. Because if they don't, this thing will be dead on arrival and it will flop just as badly as the Aftermath. Maybe even more so because these cards are not tied to a Magic IP. They're tied to the Assassin's Creed IP, and not everybody's a fan of Assassin's Creed. That's the thing. I am. I like Assassin's Creed. But, a lot of players do not like these Universes Beyond cards getting mixed into Magic the Gathering. So there is a real chance that if they overprice this, it will kill these Beyond boosters before they ever get off the ground. So the last little bit I gleaned off of this video with the little Q&A session that they have is starting next Friday at the MagicCon Chicago. They're going to actually have some preview information on the upcoming sets throughout the rest of the year. So they're going to have stuff on Outlaws of Thunder Junction. They're going to have stuff on Modern Horizons 3. They're going to have stuff on this new Assassin's Creed set. And they're also going to have a little bit of stuff on the Bloomborough set that's coming in the fall as well. So we're also going to get a little story seeding along with the for the stuff going on for the Outlaws of Thunder Junction as well. So we're going to kind of get to know what the next thing is for Kellen and his story moving off the plane onto Thunder Junction. And we're going to get our first set of a quote unquote Wild West or a Wild Weird West set out of Magic the Gathering. They're also being a little coy about some changes that are coming with the list slot in the Thunder Junction. I mentioned this a little bit ago where they said they can't really say much about it, but I think this is where they're going to either do one of two things. They're either going to slot in those cards from this epilogue set that they canceled and shifted the cards into the set, or they mentioned something about reprints on theme, which makes me think that they're kind of going to do what they did with the Lord of the Rings, where we had a bunch of staple cards for like Commander, like Paradise Druid and Elvish Provisioner and stuff like that, where they had Lord of the Rings art applied to cards that have already been printed in Magic the Gathering, Swords to Plowshares, that kind of stuff. I think maybe we might actually get some art that is more thematic with this Wild West, Wild Weird West theme with those cards slotting in because they said it's going to be more story centric. So maybe we're going to get some kind of cards like that where it features characters on the art, but they're more of a staple variety of cards. Hard to say. But with that said, this is what I've kind of gleaned out of that hour-long video. I hope it saves you guys some time and gets it out there into the world. And as always, thank you for watching and have a great day.